All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am an avid herpetologist, and I've got a very exciting deck profile for you today. We're going to be doing another one of the new EX3 archetypes. Oh, I shouldn't really say new. This is a deck that's actually been slowly receiving support even since the very first set of the Digimon TCG. But in EX3, we finally have a Digimon that can helm the deck and bring it together into a cohesive archetype, and I'm very excited. This is actually the deck that I was most looking forward to from EX3, and yes, that does include MegaSeadramon. I was very excited for the new Chaosdramon, don't get me wrong, but this is actually the deck I've most been looking forward to actually getting and playtesting. And I was very excited to see that you guys on stream this Thursday were also equally excited to see me actually playing it, and you wanted to see the deck list, so that is what we're going to be covering today. This is my take on the new Aegisdramon archetype. So this deck is actually not fully finished yet. There's brand new support also still coming in BT11 in a couple of months that is going to directly upgrade this version of the build as well. I'm already got the BT11 build set up and ready to go, and I'm also really excited that it's going to more strictly focus around the Cedramon line. So this is going to be my EX3 build, but stay tuned because I will absolutely be continuing to play this deck in BT11. If there was ever a deck that was going to get me away from my favorite Metal Dragon, it's going to be this one. I'm a big sucker for water archetypes, and this is the very first ever dedicated water archetype in Digimon. So we're going to go ahead and get right into the deck list. So right off the bat, we're going to talk about our eggs. Now, if you are playing Aegisdramon, you're probably going to play these 4 eggs and these 4 eggs only because they are very, very good. And that is going to be the cutest egg in all of Digimon, BT7 Bukamon. So this Bukamon has a very simple effect where when you play things from your Digivolution sources, you get to gain a memory. So the entire goal of the Aegisdramon archetype is playing Digimon out of your sources directly to your field. It's a very unique playstyle, and it has some really cool play patterns that you can kind of learn how to use and abuse. Now, as I mentioned, with new support coming out in BT11, there's actually a new ultimate called Sedramon that is going to basically give you extra copies of this inheritable. So you'll really start to get memory gains as you're kind of moving through your plays and things like that. Basically, the whole idea of the archetype is you keep tucking things underneath, digivolving on top of things, whatever you have to do, get Digimon into sources so you can keep playing them back out. It makes very wide boards very fast. So being able to get memory off of that is, of course, going to be one of the best ways to capitalize. Now, right off the bat, before we go on, I want to make sure I mention this archetype and this playstyle. While it is very cool, there are really 3 cards in existence that this deck aggressively does not want to see. The first one should not surprise anybody, and it is the looming boogeyman of the Digimon TCG, Decklist. Decklist pretty much invalidates this deck's entire game plan, so unfortunately, as long as Decklist does exist in the game and is still legal, I do think this deck's viability is severely hampered, just because you can't really go wide. However, if Decklist ever was to get banned, I actually do think this deck has the teeth in order to actually be able to compete, at least to a certain degree. I think it would be a very powerful rogue deck. The other 2 things this deck really doesn't want to see are Crimson Blaze, which is going to prevent you from playing Digimon for the turn while wiping all your 6,000 DPs or less. It's a very, very powerful option against this deck, so you really don't want to see that, but you can at least recover from it. And the last card are a series of floodgates, both Plesiomon in yellow and Whamon in green, which again have a floodgate effect where you cannot play Digimon by effects. So these cards are going to be kind of the bane of this deck's existence, but basically the goal is trying to find ways to play around those cards. But we're going to go ahead and move on into our rookies and talk a little bit more about the playstyle as we're going. The first rookie we're going to talk about is also from BT7, couples right with the Bukamon, and that is BT7 Gomamon. Again, super, super cute artwork. I really love the entire aesthetic of this deck. I love the underwater theme. So this Gomamon has an effect where on play, if this card was played from a Digivolution source, you can then draw 2 cards. So it's a really great way, again, to churn out extra card advantage while you are doing the same thing that you were already doing, which is continuing to build out your board. So you want to basically play this guy out, draw 2, Digivolve on top, play it out again, draw another 2, and you just keep going, and you keep going, and you keep going, and your board just gets wider and wider and wider. Super, super cool if you ever actually watch it go off. The next rookie we're going to be playing is from EX3, and that is the new Crabmon, also playing 4 copies. Now this Crabmon is one of the 2 lower level cards that really help this deck get its teeth. So Crabmon has an on-play effect, where one of your blue Digimon gains jamming for the turn. Then, if it was played from sources, you can tuck a blue level 5 or lower Digimon under that Digimon, the one that got jamming, as its bottom Digivolution card. So not only are you going to be able to help swing in for some damage with jamming, help keep your swing safe, but after doing that, you can then tuck a new card underneath to eventually also be played out. So basically the idea is you keep playing things out, get more advantage. Play things out, get more advantage. It's really, really, really cool. The last 4 rookies we're playing, I am only playing 12, is going to be another 4 copies of Gabumon. Now, this Gabumon is actually, BT1, so one of the very first sets of the game. Hasn't seen a lot of play recently. Now, this card has seen historic play in a lot of blue decks because it just has an on-play effect to draw a single card. So whether you are digivolving this onto an egg or playing it from your hand, it is still going to replace itself for card advantage. So super, super strong. Now, there are other rookies you could potentially play in Aegisdramon. If you want to go the Floodgate route with Madogi Beta or Sayakomon, you can also go other searchers. For instance, Dracomon, if you are trying to really build around the Dramon sub-theme. However, I've been going with Gabumon just because having generic card draw is, of course, always valuable, and it's definitely earned its spot in the games that I've played. So moving up into our champions, we're actually playing a total of, I believe, 15 champions. So a little bit more than our rookie lineup, actually, and the big reason for that, as I mentioned, is being able to play out a rookie and digivolve on top of it and then play the rookie out again. I actually want to be seeing more champions than I want to be seeing rookies. I can get by with just 1 or 2 rookies, but I want to keep being able to digivolve champions onto them so I can keep my board state growing. So we are playing a total of 15. Now the first 4 are also from EX3, and that is going to be 4 copies of the brand new Ebidramon. Now this is the other half with Crabmon that really helps the deck become a little bit more, aggressive. Ebidramon is actually kind of a double-edged sword in that regard. Not only is it has potential to be both aggressive and defensive. So on play, Ebidramon will then give one of your blue Digimon blocker until the end of the opponent's turn, and if played from Digivolution sources, you can then unsuspend that Digimon. So if you have already swung, and you're going to be ending your turn by playing this out, you can then unsuspend your attacker and give it blocker. Or, if you are able to continue your turn, you can play this out on attack to unsuspend and get a secondary attack through as well. So a really, really diverse and flexible card. Super, super cool with the rest of the archetype. The next 4 cards are going to be a full playset of Tobiumon from BT4. Now this card is pretty generic. It is a level 3, a level 4, 3 to play, 3000 DP, 1 to digivolve. So it's one of those vanillas that have seen play in combo decks every once in a while because they have very cheap stats and are not going to be clogging up your hand. 1 to digivolve is going to be super important for this deck for the reasons I've already mentioned. Playing out rookies, 1 to digivolve, play out again. 1 to digivolve, play out again. That's how you get all of your aggression and get some absolutely bonkers board states. Tobiumon in particular is going to be important though, since these are actually the only 2 champion level Digimon that we are running that have the aquatic or sea animal trait. Unfortunately, a lot of the support for this deck is specifically looking for Digimon that are either level 3, they can be any trait as level 3, or aquatic or various sea-themed Digimon. So Tobiumon is, this card says sea animal, I think it might have been errated to say aquatic. Honestly, it's a big headache. If you want to try to look up which cards are considered what, EX3 has a metric ton of erratas that change the traits and what's included in what. It's honestly very confusing, but the bottom line is both of these cards are considered to be aquatic, are included in that general theme, so it can be played out by almost all of your abilities that are going to be playing out Digimon. So that is why we're going to be playing 4 copies of that. Next up, I'm going to be playing 3 copies of Coredramon from starter deck Old Force Ebidramon. So this Coredramon is 6 to play, 5000 DP, 2 to digivolve, but has a security effect where you can play it straight from your security if it gets checked. So again, helping to further that theme of wider board states. It also has an on-play effect to draw 2 cards. Now there aren't too many Digimon in this deck that can play Coredramon out of sources just because it is not in the aquatic sub-theme. However, I am going to be playing 2 copies of Kaiser Nail, and Kaiser Nail can play out the Coredramon where you can continue to benefit from that draw too. So not only do we have the Gomamon to draw us 2, but Coredramon can then keep drawing us cards as well. And the last 4 champions we're going to be running are going to be 4 copies of Coelamon. Now, I haven't seen too many other Aegisdramon lists running Coelamon, and I honestly don't know why. Coelamon is absolutely worthy of an inclusion in this deck, even though it is technically an ancient fish and is not included in the aquatic subtheme, so it's harder to play. It's one of the best cards to Digivolve onto your rookies while they're in play. So basically, if you have multiple copies of this, and you can play a rookie, Digivolve Coelamon onto it, play it out, Digivolve another Coelamon, you're getting blockers every time you do that. Coelamon is 6 to play, 5000 DP, only 1 to Digivolve. It has blocker and loses you 2 memory when it attacks. So it's a very, very powerful defensive tool. And again, having a full 8 champions that are able to Digivolve for only 1 memory means we can go wide super, super fast. And since Tobiumon is only 3 to play, it might as well also be considered extra copies of rookies if you're going to be having to hard play something from hand. So the lower end of this deck is very aggressive, very tight, and very synergistic. It plays out super, super consistently. And again, yeah, I honestly just can't express enough how excited I am to finally be playing this deck. It is absolutely wild. So moving on up into our ultimates. First of all, we're going to be playing 4 copies of the new EX3 MegaSeadramon. Cannot say enough again how happy I am that Cedramon line is finally getting some love. This MegaSeadramon is super, super cool. It's 7 to play, 7000 DP, 3 to Digivolve, has a on attacking effect to play a level 3 Digimon card from one of your blue Digimon sources without paying its memory cost. So this is going to be the first of our effects that is going to be proactively playing things out of our sources. And as I mentioned, this one in particular is strictly playing at level 3s. It doesn't have to be aquatic, so we can use our Gabumon, who is not aquatic, but you are able to drop any of these from any of your sources. So it has that go wide effect. Its inheritable is actually the exact same effect, but on an inheritable, which is, again, redundancy that the deck desperately wants to have. So its inheritable is, again, on attacking once per turn. When you play a blue level 3 Digimon card from Digivolution sources, you can then... Oh no, you can just play the level 3 from the sources without paying its memory cost. Now, it is worth mentioning, the inheritable is once per turn, however, the when Digivolving effect is not. So if you got real big grapes and you want to go for a swing with MegaSeadramon into security, play out your Ebidramon to unsuspend MegaSeadramon, you can then attack again. Obviously, you make sure I mention, you can't play Ebidramon off of MegaSeadramon, but if you have a MegaSeadramon in play and a way to get Ebidramon out, again, MegaSeadramon's effect is not once per turn. Just make sure you keep that in mind. The other ultimate we are currently playing is 4 copies of Waymon. Now, Waymon is okay. It's not, honestly, my favorite card in the deck. I do like the artwork, and again, I love the aquatic theme, but I think Waymon is definitely going to be replaced by Waruseadramon easily. It's going to be 4 MegaSeadramon and 4 Waruseadramon from BT11 and onward. So Waymon has 8 to play, 7000 DP, 3 to Digivolve. On play, you may play 1 level 3 Digimon card from one of your Digimon sources as another Digimon without paying its memory cost. If you do, you may place a blue Digimon card from your hand at the bottom of any of your Digimon's Digivolution sources. So this has 2 effects that the deck obviously really wants. Not only does it have an on-play that can also drop something else out, so if you play Waymon from a source, you then get to play a second Digimon as well, but it also replaces the card that it's bringing out by, again, letting you tuck something new underneath one of your stacks, giving you more resources for that effect. Now, again, Waymon it's not bad by any stretch. I think it's currently one of the best, if not the best option for this deck to be running in your secondary level 5 slot. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the best thing ever, forever. You can actually get away with playing other cards like BT1 or BT2 Zudomon, even though you can't play it out of sources because it's still a sea beast and not a sea animal for some reason. It does have an inheritable on top of the when played draw 2 that will let you gain a memory if you attack and your opponent does have a Digimon to play with no Digivolution sources. So Waymon is by no means like the definitive card you want to always be playing in your other level 5 slot. There's also plenty of other options, but this is what I'm currently going with just because it is very synergistic, and honestly, I've learned to respect the extra effect that also lets you tuck an extra source. Those are super, super helpful. Moving up into our Mega slots, we have 4 copies of EX3 Plesiomon. Plesiomon has been one of my favorites for a little while. I think it is a super cool and super cute Digimon, and this Plesiomon is perfect to tie this archetype together. 11 to play, 11,000 DP, 3 to Digivolve. Has a when Digivolving effect. You may play 1 blue level 3 Digimon card or a level 4 with aquatic in its traits. There's again that inclusion without paying its memory cost, and then again you may tuck any blue Digimon from your hand under this Digimon as its bottom Digivolution source. So again, you're going to be playing things out, tucking new things, so you can continue getting your advantage. Then it has an all turns inheritable effect, where once per turn, when you play a Digimon from a Digivolution source, return one of your opponent's Digimon with the same level to the bottom of its owner's deck. So very, very powerful inheritable there. Now, this is it's a very strong effect, but the big reason that effect is so potent is the next card on our list, a card that I have wanted to see play ever since the game first released, and here we are finally talking about it. We are playing 3 copies of BT2 MetalSeadramon. If you haven't heard of this card, I don't blame you. Even in its absolute heyday, when there were actual MegaZoo decks going around just playing the extremely powerful on-play Megas from the first couple of sets, like Volcanicdramon, Puppetmon, and the original MachineDramon, MetalSeadramon still was not quite good enough to make the cut. It is 11 to play, 10,000 DP, and 3 to Digivolve, has an on-play effect to return up to 2 of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon to their hand, and then it also has an effect where it can't be blocked by opponent's Digimon with no Digivolution cards. It's not the best card in the world. However, what finally helps this card see relevance and be one of the most powerful cards in the deck is its interaction with Plesiomon here. So if you have an ultimate level and Digivolve up into Plesiomon, not only do you get to drop a new body on the board, but ideally you will then get to tuck MetalSeadramon underneath. Ultimately, what's going to happen is when you Digivolve up into your next, level 7, Aegisdramon, the namesake for the deck, you'll not only be able to bounce a Mega because of MegaSeadramon entering, but then you'll also get to bounce 2 level 4 lowers thanks to its in-play effect. So ultimately what happens is you grow your field by a full body of MetalSeadramon, Mega level body at that, and as soon as you're done, you then get to bounce potentially 3 of your opponent's Digimon back to their hand. It is an incredible board control tool. So MetalSeadramon absolutely earns its place. I've seen a lot of lists running less than 3. I personally am running just these 3. I'm running 7 Megas in total, so 4 Plesio and 3 MetalSeadramon, and it has felt just about right. So these are the ratios that I'm personally going with, but I actually do plan on doing a full deep dive video on the Aegisdramon archetype because there are so many different cards that you can play in this archetype. I don't have time to talk about them all here, but I'm going to make a much longer video really delving into your card choices in the coming weeks. But let's go ahead and talk about our level 7, the namesake of the deck, the man himself. This is Aegisdramon. We are playing 4 copies. So Aegisdramon is a level 7, 14 to play, 14,000 DP, 4 to Digivolve. Has a when Digivolving effect to play any blue Digimon. I gotta make sure I read all these because it's a bit of it's a bit of a long effect. You can play a blue level 3 Digimon card, or a Digimon with Cedramon in its name, or aquatic in its traits from one of your blue Digimon's sources without paying its memory cost. So, you need to make sure you know your limitations on this card. So this card can bring out a lot of the cards in this deck, but not all of them. So, being able to bring out anything with the Cedramon name is going to cover our MetalSeadramon here. So even though it is a cyborg, it is not part of the aquatic line, having the name Cedramon is going to let you bring it out with Aegisdramon. So going from Plesiomon, tuck MetalSeadramon, Digivolve into Aegisdramon, that is going to be your main control play that establishes that you are going to be pushing for hopefully lethal in the next couple of turns. Now, Aegisdramon also has an amazing board control effect, where if your opponent wants to try to set back up after you have wiped 3 things off their board, they need to do it by Digivolution, not by playing, or they will be punished. On the opponent's turn, once per turn, when your opponent plays a Digimon card, you may activate one of this Digimon's when Digivolving effects, which means if they play something once per turn, you also get to play out any of the cards that Aegisdramon could play by Digivolving. So if you play a MetalSeadramon and go into another Aegisdramon or have another way of tucking a MetalSeadramon, you can keep dropping them. It's so cool. I know I say so cool a lot on this channel, but I don't know how else to say it. This deck is nutty. These are such unique interactions that you really don't see in a lot of other Digimon decks. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about our last couple of cards here. Only 5 cards to go. To begin with, we've got some Tamers. We're going to play 2 copies of Davis Motomiya. I finally got this card in the mail, which is why I'm finally making the video. This is a 4-drop Tamer. You're probably already familiar with it. It's a memory setter, so at the start of your turn, if you have less than 3 memory, set your memory to 3. And when played, you can reveal your top 3, add a blue and a green Digimon from among them to your hand. So basically, it is just a memory setter that is going to let us look at our top 3 and find the pieces we need to keep growing our board state and furthering our game plan. So it's definitely the best blue memory set Tamer for this archetype right now. We're also going to be playing a single copy of Sora and Joe. I considered playing more copies of Davis, but honestly, I think 3 Tamers is probably fine. Since you are already playing an egg that lets us gain memory, you don't necessarily need a lot of extra memory fix, and playing a third memory setter seemed a bit redundant. So what I'm choosing to do is go with 2 copies of Davis and a single copy of Sora Joe. Sora Joe, at the start of your turn, if your opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources, you will gain an extra 2 memory. So basically, you can go to 3, and if you Sora Joe procs, you'll then go up to 5, just at the start of every turn. Also, as an effect, once on your turn, when you attack with a blue Digimon, you can suspend the Tamer to then trash 2 Digivolution cards from the bottom of one of your opponent's Digimon. Now, trashing sources is, of course, kind of an infamous effect in the game at this point. It is a very powerful effect, and with good reason. So Sora Joe is honestly one of the better blue Tamers, if not one of the best Tamers in the game. Playing 1 copy seems about right. I don't necessarily want more than that. And then the final 2 cards are, as I mentioned, 2 copies of Kaiser Nail. Now, these 2 copies of Kaiser Nail, I'm considering changing out for more potential removal options. So there's lots of blue removal options that are going to be super powerful. The bottom line is this deck, as I mentioned, very much struggles with floodgates that prevent you from playing Digimon, and specifically Deathexmon. So having answers to those cards is going to be very important. So being able to get rid of those cards without bouncing them to the hand so they can immediately be replayed is going to be a very needed effect, I think, in a lot of matchups. What I'm thinking I'm probably going to do is run a card that I don't know that a lot of people have seen or at least heard of in a long time, because I have not seen it or heard of it in a long time. It's an option card called Rattlestar. It's 5 to play. You can bounce when your opponent's level 4 or lowers, or if they have 3 or more Digimon in play, you can just take one of their Digimon and put it on the bottom of their deck for 5 memory. So I'm probably going to end up swapping these Kaiser Nails out for the copies of Rattlestar, because we need more permanent ways to get rid of those problem cards if the deck wants any chance of actually surviving. So anyways, yeah, that's going to just about do it. If you guys want to see more gameplay from Aegisdramon, you guys got to tune into those Thursday live streams. We're not going to be streaming this coming Thursday because it's going to be Thanksgiving here in the States. I'm going to be spending some time with my wife and my family. However, the following week we should be right back to it again, and I'm absolutely going to be playing more of this deck on stream. It is so much fun to pilot. It's another deck that does very much reward not only the strategic deck building from the pilot, but also the pilot's skill and practice with this deck. It is very easy to play poorly, and it can be very challenging to actually get to play well. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about this deck or are looking forward to the deep dive video that I do plan on doing on this archetype, feel free to comment down below. With that, I hope you guys, enjoy the rest of your night. I am an avid herpetologist. Feel free to like and subscribe if you like the content. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody, and I will see you all next time.